Okay, so we are continuing reading this article inspired by the statement in the Talmud that Hillel makes that when challenged to teach a prospective convert uh, the entire Torah while the convert stands on one foot, Hillel says, "What is hateful to you, do not do to any person." That is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. Go and study. So for the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been looking at other people's formulation of this idea, and I I was looking it over, just actually a few minutes ago, and I thought I would skip a bunch and jump down to a section about God's relationship to Israel. I think it's a little more interesting than some of the things I'm skipping, and also I would like to finish this topic this week and go on to something new. So again, we're in this article, 12-page article, and the next section is God's relationship to Israel. So who would like to read?
I'll read tonight. I'll try. I'll
Okay,
try.
thank you, Paul.
God's relationship to Israel. Become worthy of being chosen. The Torah traces the story of God's ongoing desire for an intimate relationship with the family of Abraham. Unlike other gods of the ancient world, who were often seen as indifferent to humanity and in need of appeasement, Abraham's God, the God of Israel, seeks closeness with the God with the beings God created. This God offers the
The covenantal
covenant,
people.
covenantal people new opportunities to respond to the divine call and to mature into accountable partners. The Torah's core message is that God lovingly desires Israel, and that Israel's task is to respond to the divine call by becoming worthy of their chosenness. They can do so by showing loyalty to God and by establishing a just society which reflects God's intimate love.
I really like this. When I got to this section, I is one of the reasons I thought we would skip down to this page in the article. I think an absolutely unique invention of the Torah and of Judaism is the idea of God seeking a relationship and fundamentally the idea of covenant. I remember first time I took a course in Introduction to Judaism. I discovered this idea or learned this idea. I shouldn't say I discovered it. I learned this idea of the covenant being at the heart of our religion. And the idea that not only are we to serve God, and not only do we have obligations to God, but God has obligations to us. And that the idea that God wants to be in relationship with us. If you compare this, and this is not a subject with which I'm very familiar, but if you compare it to, Greek gods and Egyptian gods, they are playing games and they are raping and they are cheating and they are stealing and they are doing all kinds of crazy things. And the stories are very interesting, but it's a very different kind of God and relationship. So I appreciated this little section. Erwin,
Sure.
Yeah, I would like
Uh,
to. I
it's
heard
it,
the
hold,
media.
hold on a second. Erwin and then Farah. Hold on. Go ahead.
I, I heard the midrash when uh, God is talking to the angels. The angels ask him that why he wants to create humans, and God says, "Because I want to be loved," or I'm not sure I'm quoting it right, but that was the story.
There is a discussion, um, and I don't remember the details, but there is a discussion, a very interesting discussion in the Midrash about before creation. You know, the angels or the heavenly beings are saying, you're going to create man. Man is going to sin. Man is going to be disobedient, and so on. And then I think God's response was something like, yes, but they will also, do good things and so on. And I think there's also a similar discussion in the Quran. So yeah, I agree with you. Farah, you wanted to say something.
Yes, here it says that God make a covenant with Abraham family. The family just goes for the Isaac or for Ishmael as well, because they are also family from Abraham.
So that's another thing I often talk about, and that is in um, God's words to Abraham is in Genesis 12. So in Genesis 1 through 11, God gives commandments to all the humans, and God tries to communicate with all the humans. So we have the Garden of Eden. Well, that's easy because there's only two people. But then we have the generation of Noah. Things have gotten so bad that God decides to destroy everyone except for Noah. And then there's the Tower of Babel. So I would say before Abraham, uh, God is not doing so well. And the way I like to think of this is that God takes a different strategy. And that is rather than being a commander to everyone, God says, I'm going to work through a family. And it's the family of Abraham. And I would say it doesn't go just to Jacob. It's us. I mean, we are called Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, where Israel is understood to be Jacob. But it is a family affair. And in the world of Judaism, you are Jewish because your parents are Jewish. So it is definitely a family. But the counter to that is anyone can become Jewish. I'm going to be part of a conversion, a baked-in Jewish court tomorrow morning for a young woman in Ottawa, Canada. We'll be doing this by Zoom, so anyone can join. Paul.
Yeah, I'm going to go over a little bit of something that happened to me, uh, not yesterday, the day before. With my brother, we went out to lunch, and we were talking about how each of us is doing, and how you doing, my wonderful brother. And he said, "Well, you know what? I don't have anybody to be with. I don't have any. My wife passed away. I have nothing, no one to be with." And I said to myself, well, I don't have anybody to be with. My grandkids are here, but my daughter's here, but I'm in the same boat. I don't have anybody to be with in an emotional way. And I wonder if God too had that feeling that he's giving everything to everybody. He's trying to teach everything to everybody. He doesn't have any place to attach his
So
love
that's really interesting. I mean, this is another, I would say, sermonic theme I talk about a lot, which is the first thing that God says is not good is loneliness. In
Yes,
the opening 6 days of creation, God makes this, and this. Some things are good, some things are very good, nothing is bad. And then in the Garden of Eden, God says it is not good for a person to be alone. So
right,
I agree with you. Um, on the other hand, I would say, um, it's not just immediate family, that there's other people
right.
in
That's right.
one's life. I was going to
That's
say,
right.
Paul, what are we, chopped liver?
Right.
You have a Jewish community, you have
Yeah,
neighbors where you live, people who feel isolated, I think can be a lot less isolated if they volunteer. And, they may not even have the energy to get out and volunteer, so they could be on a hotline. I mean, if you really want to be connected with people, there are ways to do that. It's not the same as having your
right.
spouse and and
Exactly. It's not
and
the same.
and and grandkids living in the same home, but there are ways to do it. And the other thing which I love is when God creates a physical universe, people can ask the question, why did God create a physical universe? So before the Big Bang or before Breshit, before the opening of the Torah, um, the at least the religious understanding is that it was all God and only God. There's no physical universe. And then God decides to create a physical universe. So the question is why? And so one answer, which I don't like, which is God creates a physical universe, um, because if God is to be praised, we need someone to praise God. So
Right.
we need the choir, okay? That I think makes God rather egotistical. The one I like is God likes stories. And actually, I think the point of this little snippet is God wants to be in relationship to people.
That's what I think
So
too.
if you image God as someone sort of on a high throne just giving orders, then I'm with you that seems problematic. But if you image God as someone who cares passionately about what you do in your life, and whether you're a partner with God, a covenantal partner, and making the world a better place, then God has plenty of company.
Yes.
So that would be my response. Okay, there's I'm going to read some very short ones. Be holy. You shall be holy, for I, Lord your God, am holy. So I guess Marvin Sweeney, whoever he is just summarizing the opening of Leviticus to being that. And Menachem Kellner, who's a teacher, I believe, says holiness is a challenge, not an endowment. It is up to us, not God, to bring holiness into the world. And again, my understanding of the word kadosh in Hebrew is it talks about an exclusive relationship. So it's not just, you kiss a prayer book when you drop it, or a Torah scroll is very holy, but holiness is about relationship.
It is.
And I'll read one more quick one, a haiku. One transcendent God, creator, commander, judge, bound to a people. Okay, I don't remember the rules for haiku. Okay, Paul, you want to read another section?
Reward and punishment.
Yeah.
Hillel presents the positive aspect of Judaism. Be good to your fellow, and you will be rewarded. He did not elaborate what if not. That is the flip side of Judaism's message, which we find in Psalm 137, when between weeping and crying, the Jews in the Babylonian exile asked themselves, what went wrong? In much of the Bible, the answer the exiled Jews gave was, we sinned and we were punished. Indeed, the Bible from Genesis to Chronicles was redacted with an emphasis on reward and punishment.
So
Rami Arva.
So I would agree. There's a lot of reward and punishment in the Bible, but there's also, I think the lesson of the book of Job is that it's more complicated than that.
Right.
But certainly there is this sense of reward and punishment. Actually it's interesting. I don't see Hillel saying that what's hateful to your neighbor, don't do, is be good to your fellow and you will be rewarded. I don't see Hillel saying that, but I'm not Rami Arav. Erwin.
I don't agree. I don't feel that if I am a good person or I do something nice to another person, I want to be rewarded. I
didn't say that about you. What I
No,
would say is in the Bible, certainly in the book of Deuteronomy, time and time and time again, God says, if you follow my commandments, I will reward you. And if you disobey with my commandments, I will punish you. So that is a theme of the Bible.
I agree. I know, I understand what you're saying, but for my personal view, I don't think I do. I hope I don't do things because I want to be rewarded if I am good to somebody.
And I would comment a very important Mishnah in the Pirkei Avot says, don't be like the servant who serves the master for the sake of reward. Be like the servant who serves the master for the love of the master. So I like that.
Very nice. I like that too.
Okay. I'll ask you to read one more.
Sure. God spoke. It is told that Rabbi Zuya never heard the entirety of the sermons of his Rebbe, the Megad of Mezerich. Or whenever his teacher quoted a verse from the Torah, that contained two words, God spoke. Rav Zusa was overcome with ecstasy and had to be taken out of the study hall, screaming and crying aloud.
V'yedaber Adonai, v'yedaber Adonai.
God spoke, God spoke. These two words occur so frequently that we do not pay them heed. But Rav Zusa understood that they contain the essence of Torah, that God spoke, and we have the record of what was heard. Eric
Yeah, so
wrote,
I like that. I'm just going to take a quick look at footnote number 7. Let's see where it's from. Oh, that's from Martin Buber. I have that book. I should take a look at that book. Uh, yeah, so he was so overwhelmed with the idea that God is actually speaking that he couldn't focus on anything else.
yes.
And I sort of like that. One of my teachers would say every bracha has the second word of every bracha is atah. Baruch atah Adonai. Blessed are you, Adonai. And this teacher pointed out that you should realize that when you say those words, you are directly addressing God and you are in direct communication with God. So this idea of having an intimate connection that God speaks to us and we can speak to God is I think, very powerful. I'll call on Paul and I'll tell one more Rav Zusia story.
Several years ago, when I was in Abad, I had this feeling inside my body, and I often get a feeling about God in my body. But this time, I felt that God and I were driving in a Jeep, and he was behind the wheel. I was his partner or as his passenger. And he was driving and he was driving, and he would point out to me certain things that he saw, certain things that he liked me to see, certain things that he was talking to me about. And he said, "Oh, look at that! Isn't that neat? Oh, this is Mount Sinai. This is the Torah." And he would talk to me. That's that's the kind of intimate relationship I have with God. And another man came in to talk about God, and he was a rabbi, and I don't know his name, but he said, "I have the same feeling, Dr. Safran. I have the same feeling you do." He said, I was in the car with God when I was in rabbinical school." He said, "I had that same feeling." And I think sometimes that I know everybody has a different sense of what God is about. I happen to feel that God is there for me and for everybody else, and I do like talking to him, and I do like his answers, whatever they might be. I do like talking.
I love the image of God driving.
Yeah.
And so one of the conflicts I see at the heart of theology is anybody driving the bus? So at one extreme, I would say, Rabbi Harold Kushner would say that bad things happen in the world and they're not caused by anything. They are just bad things happening in the world.
Chaos.
And he would be, specifically referring to the disease that killed his son.
Yeah, Nigeria, yeah.
A more, I would say, traditional theology, and certainly Kabbalah, and certainly Chabad, is that God is in control of absolutely everything, and the world is going exactly the way God intends the world to go.
Right.
And while I have huge problems with that, it is comforting that somebody's driving the bus, rather than we're in a self-driving bus where the program hasn't worked out all the bugs yet. So I would say I like that image.
I was happy to be in the vehicle with God, because he steered and he was talking to me and he was having a great time, and that's the way I like it.
Okay. But it's a very personal relationship.
Yes.
And I would say one of the things that I admire about many of the Christian movements, particularly fundamentalist Christian movements, is in their speaking, it's clear that they have a very intense personal relationship with Jesus.
Right.
Theologically, I reject that completely out the window, but I have to admire it from a standpoint of comfort.
Yes.
In fact, there's this wonderful image with which I am sure many of you are familiar with the footprints in the sand. And
Right, exactly.
somebody says, the image is when I looked at the sand, I could see my footprints and God's footprints walking side by side. But then when I looked over at the times of my life, when I was having the most trouble, I only saw one set of footprints.
Right.
And so the person asked God, why weren't you with me when I was having these terrible times? And the response is, I was with you, I was carrying you.
Hearing you.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I like that as an image. I'm not crazy about it as theology, but I like it as an image. There's another great story about Rabbi Zusia, where he is about to die, or he's on his deathbed, or growing older, and he's overcome by fear about all the things that he failed to accomplish in his life. And he was saying, that how can I face God when I was not another Moses? I didn't do all the
Right.
great things that I might have been able to do.
That's right.
And so I can't remember whether the Midrash talks about when he actually meets God or what his teacher tells him. And he says, God doesn't expect you to be Moses. He expects you to be Zuzia, because we already have a Moses. If we didn't have a Zuzia, who would take that role? So I like that idea.
I do too.
Okay. Joanne, would you like to do some reading, God of History?
I got a question.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
We say Baruch Atah. Atah is feminine or is a man?
Male.
Male?
Yes,
so
male.
At is what? At is female?
At is female.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know.
Yeah, if you wanted to make it feminine, which, go to the Reconstructionist prayer book, you would say Brucha at Yah. Yah is a feminine word for God. So if you want to make it feminine, you can say Brucha at Yah. Yeah, the word for you is either masculine or feminine. There's no gender neutral in Hebrew. Interestingly, I is gender neutral. Ani is the same for men and women, and we, the first person plural, is gender neutral. So another way of getting around gender in the opening of a blessing would be, I can't remember the exact way to structure the verb, but it would be like, Borchenu makor hachayim. We bless the source of life. So that then you don't have to put gender in it. But it's very hard to be gender neutral in Hebrew, as it is in many languages. The Romance languages all have gender.
What do transgender Israelis do?
Well, that's a huge discussion, and I personally don't have a tremendous amount of experience. But so, for example, well, one issue is if you identify with a particular gender, you should use that gender. If you want to resist, so actually, I actually don't understand. Your question is too broad. Are you saying how do they structure their prayers addressing God, or how do they refer to themselves, or what?
What I was getting at is in the United States, and I guess the English-speaking world in general, many people who are non-binary use plural pronouns because the plural pronouns they and them are gender neutral, whereas the singulars are not. Or the first and second person, I and you and me, and so forth.
Yes.
But he, she, her, his, and so forth.
The
third person singulars are not, whereas the third person plurals are. But in languages where that's not the case, where there are no
gender neutral pronouns
at all, how do non-binary people who would be used?
Yeah, okay. So my understanding is, and I haven't followed it very closely, is they are inventing new words that they can use to describe themselves. But there's no existing words in Hebrew that cover it. Okay. You may or may not like that. Okay. God of History.
God of history, the purpose of the Torah is to manifest God's being in our world in various shades. It begins with a view of humans and their place in creation as bearers of God's image, continues with universal moral demands, and takes a deep look at the many failures in this area, illuminates the special status and mission of the Israelite nation and its special place in the land of Canaan, which becomes the land of Israel. Further along the way, it reveals to us God's commandments and his demands. It emphasizes that God is not only the creator of the world, but also the God of history, and that reality operates according to spiritual principles in addition to the laws of nature and society. At its core, it is therefore the path of revelatory contact that allows us to connect to what is beyond the visible reality that we see with our eyes. Yuval Sherlock.
I think that a major element of sort of the biblical reference to God is as God of history. Um, in the unfolding of the Bible, God is intimately involved with the history that's presented in the Bible. And I often comment that the opening of the Ten Commandments is, I am the Lord thy God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And it's always struck me, if I was introducing myself to the Israelite people or to humanity at all, the most significant thing I could think about God is I'm God who created the universe. But it's very interesting that at least in the opening of the Ten Commandments, God's introduction of God's self is to the Israelite people is I'm the one that brought you out of the land of Egypt. So it's very much a God of history. So
God cares.
David Wolpe, who I know, writes in rhyme. I just want to alert you to it.
Oh, okay. God cares. The message of the Torah seems manifestly clear. The distant God is also miraculously near, commands one chosen nation to model for the class, and if they do it faithfully, will put them from morass, cares for human conduct and for divine renown. That is nutshell Torah. Now put your foot back down. David Wolpe.
Yeah, I like that, particularly the last line. Put your foot down.
Okay.
Oh, this is also very interesting. God and Israel.
God and Israel, a love story. For all of the eternity in its entirety is not as worthy as the day on which Song of Songs was given to Israel. For all the writings are holy, but Song of Songs is the holy of holies.
Okay, I'm just showing off. I studied this for so long. I can't resist.
All
She'ein
right.
kol ha'olam kulo kedai kayom shenatan bo shir hashirim leYisrael shekol haktuvim kodesh v'shir hashirim kodesh kodeshim, which is really, I mean, it's a pretty good translation, which is fascinating because the Song of Songs is clearly about erotic love. It's not about marital love, and it's God isn't mentioned in the text. So so let's just read the rest of this paragraph and then we can react.
So said Rabbi Akiva in
Mishnah Yad.
Mishnah Yad 3:5 in his famous defense of the song's sanctity. As Saul Lieberman noted, Akiva's language puts the song on par with the Torah as a text that was given.
Natan.
Natan, yeah. Okay. Despite, or rather because of its evocative eroticism
Evocative.
sorry. Evocative eroticism and vivid yet unworldly depictions of fierce, convention-defying love, a rich tradition emerged in Judaism that understands the song as encapsulating the essence of the Torah in its most capacious sense. No other work speaks so powerfully and directly to the relationship between God and Israel, the mutuality and interdependence of covenant, and the theological importance of desire, a condition which depends on distance, exile, diaspora, to fuel passionate yearning. Laura Lieber. Laura Lieber.
I'll comment, but first I want to call on Paul.
Oh yeah, I'm going back to Yosemite a year from this September. The reason I like it there is because as I walk through the forest and as I see the trees and I touch the trees and hug the trees, I think that God is there with me. I think that He's there with me. And he has a certain smell, a certain odor, a certain elegance about the way he has a perfume that goes through the air. And when I see it, it happened to me here at my house. When I see a little bug, I saw a flaring mantis on my lawn. It flew out of a bush and it landed on my grass. And it was a pink praying mantis, and they're fairly rare. And I looked at it, and he looked right at my eyes. And I said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. I love you. I'm not going to hurt you. Because you were made by God, I love you." And the praying mantis took off, and he went back in the bushes. That's how I feel about my God. That's how I feel that God is there for me, and He's showing me these wonderful things, and He's making me feel good about where I am. That's how I feel.
I think it's a beautiful idea. I wish I could share it deeply
Yeah,
because God also made cancer cells
yes,
and
He did. Absolutely.
so on.
He
Um,
did. Absolutely.
the idea we had a several week study of the Song of Songs, really
Yes.
digging into the text.
Yes.
And it's clearly erotic love poetry. I mean, I remember studying it, and they were saying it was typical of Egyptian erotic love poems that were written in similar times. And the fact that Akiva puts this on a par, and he says that anyone that thinks it's a bawdy, you know, bar song, in-house song, has no share in the world to come. So Akiva, uh, uh, now people don't object strongly to something unless people are doing it. Nobody's treating it as a bawdy, erotic love poem. Then you don't have to go out of your way to declare that it's not, because it clearly is. But the fascinating thing, I would say, that this little paragraph encapsulates is that the imagery of the love between Israel and God is imaged in very sensual, even sexual ways.
Yes,
And I would say
absolutely.
that's true of certainly of Kabbalah. Kabbalah can be very sexual.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and I think it just reflects the intensity of the relationship between God and Israel. So what you see is, the the lover talks about his lover's two breasts. So of course they're talking about the two tablets of the law, or Moses and Aaron. And in Christian interpretations, it's Jesus and the church. And it's actually very funny to read the traditional interpretations of the text. Um, anyway, I just think it's to me go ahead. Go ahead.
Rabbi,
Yes.
I remember when we studied this text
Mhm.
and you referred several times to God and Shekinah.
Um, I don't think the text refers to Shekhinah.
No, but
No, but
you
in Kabbalah and in mysticism, definitely God and Shekhinah
yes,
as a male
yes,
female aspect of God. Yes,
yes,
yes, absolutely. And Shekhinah, is sort of the aspect, certainly in biblical Judaism, and I think in Kabbalah also, the aspect of God that dwells on earth, whereas God is this tenfold structure, but Shekhinah is the lowest one and is intimate with people on earth. So the love between God and people is described not only sort of in the Platonic ideal, which in the Greek it would be philos, but also in
yes,
eros,
yes.
that it encompasses both.
Yeah.
Judaism certainly is not shy about eros. Okay, Joanne, you want to continue?
One God, then do good now. Being asked to summarize the Torah's core meaning leads me once again to a plea Krister Stendhal made a generation ago. We need to distinguish between the question, what does the Bible mean, and what did the Bible mean? Thus, if I were asked about the Torah's core teaching was in the Iron Age when it was first proclaimed, I would likely answer
Shema
Shema
Yisrael. Yep.
Yisrael, Chai Eloheinu, Chai Echad.
Yeah, it's not Chai, it's Adonai.
Sorry.
That's a hey with a chick, but they don't want to
Okay.
write the word Adonai.
Okay.
Really?
But
Okay.
ultimately, one could well argue that the entirety of the 24 books is subsumed under the effort to bring Israel to the exclusive worship of the one God of Israel and to live according to the covenant uh, cut with that God. As I understand this today, however, when this truth was long ago grasped, I would respond with the words of the psalmist, um,
Well,
Soor
yeah,
Marah.
it's Sur Merah
Um,
Va'asu Tov.
Yeah, okay. Turn from evil and do good. The rest is commentary. Robbie Harris.
Okay,
Exactly.
nice. Okay. Okay,
Ulti-
so yeah, let's continue. I think we can
All
wrap
right.
this up.
Ultimately, we need both feet. Stand on both feet. From a purely physical perspective, there is something impressive about the ability to study or even write while standing on only one foot. Both Horace and Shammai see it differently. The Roman poet uses the phrase stans pede in uno in his invective against Lucilius, his satirical predecessor. In Horace's view, Lucilius wrote too much too quickly, often 200 verses per hour. To Horace, here standing on one foot means to do something carelessly or in a superficial way. In the Talmud, the phrase is put into the mouth of a Gentile who is approaching Shammai and a contemporary of Horace. When
Right.
studying Torah or anything else, it is probably commendable to follow Quintilian's advice. Omni pede standum est. Uh, one needs to stand on both feet. Studying deserves time. Renee
And
Block.
and I would comment that Hillel does say the rest is commentary, now go and study. It doesn't say the only thing you need is the golden rule. He summarizes the Torah's essence in the golden rule, but the commentary is important. Paul.
Yes. One thing that I try to do, and sometimes it's really hard, but I try my best to do it, is to act like I'm listening to what God says inside of me. And He lives in there. He lives in my being. And He has some ideas that He wants me to do. Like He wants me to be a good person. He wants me to be understanding and kind and talk to people in a kind way. He has made me part of Him. That's how I feel when I walk anywhere, when I walk out and in a store, when I walk any place in temple near me, or temple Adar Halim, any place, I carry that with me. I don't let it go and make it a question. Well, do I behave like God now because I'm talking to this guy, or do I really hate him? And you really tend to get a sense of inside. I need to act like God does because that's who he loves, and He loves me, and I love Him. That's how it is.
So I would say it's a very common theme in religion called imitatio Dei, to imitate God. And what I would say is um, Judaism, by and large, doesn't trust our instincts. Judaism gives us lots of laws. You know,
Right.
you want to be good to the poor. Judaism tells you how much. You're wondering, basically Judaism, we count 613 commandments in the Torah, and the rabbis give us thousands more. You want to be nice to animals, you have to feed them before you feed yourself. Uh, you have to slaughter them in a humane way. Um, so, what I see and in some ways I see the same thing in the Catholic tradition, whereas there's a lot of Catholic law, there's a lot of church law, and there's a lot of, the catechism. I'm in part of this rabbi priest dialogue, and actually we had a presentation on statements of belief, statements of faith in Judaism and in Catholicism. And my opening line about statements of faith was, there is none. Any questions? It's the shortest talk I have ever given in my life. And then, of course, there actually is one. It's Maimonides' statements of faith, but they're never used as such.
Yes.
No one ever asked me when I was bar mitzvah or entering Hebrew school whether I subscribed to Maimonides' statements of faith. When I became a rabbi, no one ever asked me, do I subscribe to Maimonides' statements of faith? And we're
Yes.
having a conversion. I've been on a lot of Batei Din, Jewish courts for conversion. We do ask questions about faith, but only in the context of conversion, not in the context of being part of a community.
I see.
And then the priest who was talking about it held up I guess it's the catechism, and the book is this thick.
Wow.
And he confessed to me, I won't say who it is, but he confessed to me that he hasn't read it all. So there's a lot of detail about in both Judah. In Judaism, there's not a lot of detail about what you should believe or what you should feel. There's a lot of detail about what you should do.
Yeah.
We're not so trusting that your personal interpretation of God will get it right.
Right.
So we're going to give you all the details as to what you're supposed to do.
There you go. That's right.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah. Let's finish it. I think this is the last item.
All right. The need for balance. On one foot at my age? No way. I need two to balance. One for read the Torah and one for read the people, the real world out there. Without both planted firmly on the ground, you will surely fall. Norman Solomon.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what he means, except that in Jewish history, the way people want to act and interpret the Torah has ultimately guided Judaism. And, we see that in the discussions in the Talmud, and even, in the Reform world, we're observing our Judaism in a very different way than in the Orthodox world. And so it's ultimately the people are going to do what the people want to do. And one hopes that God is pleased with what we do, but we can't be sure. So let's see. I think, yeah, that's it. The other stuff, I don't think I'm going to go back, and I'm going to stop sharing because we spent a lot of time on this topic. I think next time we may have covered this in the past, but I think I'm going to do it anyway. There's a nice Wikipedia article about the shofar, and since
good.
we are heading right into the high holidays, it's only 2 weeks for now. I think actually tonight, Wednesday night, it begins. So shofar is a big part of that. So I think it'd be fun to talk about the shofar, and particularly Monday night. I think
Monday night is the 22nd. I think is when it starts.
No, but today is Wednesday night. Today is
Right.
Wednesday, and I believe I'll just take a quick look.
I think Erev Rosh Hashanah is the 22nd. No?
But still,
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
Saturday.
yes. I was looking at Yom Kippur. Yes,
Right.
so it's less than 2 weeks.
It is Saturday.
Yes. So yeah, it's less than 2 weeks. Yom Kippur is 3 weeks from tonight. So the topic of the, we studied actually Rosh Hashanah in the Bible and in the Mishnah on Monday night, and the subject of the shofar came up, and so we talked about that, and so I thought it would be worth taking a closer look at the shofar. So that's what we will do next time.
I have one quick question for you, Rabbi.
Yes.
My uncle was a very bright man. He passed away last year, but he was like a computer wizard. I mean, he that's the way he was. And he gave me this sentence, and he said, "Can you write this sentence down?" And the sentence is, "There are two twos in the English language." No, there are three twos in the English language. Can you write that as a sentence?
Are you asking, can I do that? Yeah, why wouldn't I be able to do that?
Yeah, how would you spell it?
Oh, yes. So that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
So how would you? Yes, I see his point. So when you say there are three twos,
right.
What spelling would you use for that particular word?
That's right. Exactly.
So what I would probably do is I would say there are three twos, And in writing the word to, I would write TO/TOO/TWO.
Okay.
That's the way I would handle that problem. But it is a problem. I mean, there's phonetically they are all pronounced the same way, but they have very different meanings.
Very different now. Okay.
Yep. Okay, not exactly deep theology, but thank you, Paul.
It's not.
Okay, so I will thank you all and see you next time.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. That was great.
Sarah, what are
Thank
you
you.
making? I always see you. It looks like you're knitting.
I'm going to stop.